We are a home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Hello, this is Joy News Prime with me, Samuel Kojo Brace. Our lead stories, this is our Land and Natural Resources Ministry deny using land guards to retrieve and protect state land. Details of a damning revelation allegedly made by the Chief Director of the Lands Ministry before a parliamentary committee, which has triggered the minority's demand for a probe. Also, is it taking you years to secure an ECG meter for your house or shop? The power distributor says unavailability of money is making it difficult for it to acquire and make them available to you. Details as the Public Accounts Committee says it will recommend to PRC to consider licensing private sellers of the meters. We'll also take you to the Upper East region, where residents of Ayopia are pleading with the government to reconstruct their dam because what they have does not retain water for the dry season. Now, was Ghana's first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, a dictator? We have contrasting views from two of Nkrumah's children, Samia and Sekou. At 8 p.m., I'll hand over. It was a major revelation allegedly made by Chief Director of the Lands Ministry, Professor Patrick Agbe-Sinyale, who is said to have told the parliamentary committee that the state has been engaging the services of notorious land guards to retrieve and protect state lands. MP for Tamale North, Al-Hassan Souyuni, has told journalists in return these notorious land guards are paid with parcels of land. Al-Hassan Souyuni, who is also the deputy ranking member on the Lands and Forestry Committee, describes this arrangement as illegal and contrary to the Land Act and also the Vigilantism and Related Offences Act. In a swift response, the ministry says it rather engaged in the services of a private company to protect state lands and not land guards. More from the statement shortly. First, listen to Tamale North MP and Deputy Ranking Member on the Lands and Forestry Committee, Al-Hassan Souyuni, who revealed that the Chief Director of the Lands Ministry told their committee they engaged in the services of the so-called land guard.
When in our engagements with the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, the Chief Director revealed shockingly, that the ministry has resorted to engaging a land guard to retrieve and protect government lands. And mind you, these are lands that are held on behalf of the people of Ghana, vested in the president to protect it. And I'm sure that the framers of the Constitution are aware that the president is the Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces and is seized with the capacity to ensure that these lands are protected for our, communal use. And that is why the lands are vested in the president. And the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources is the ministry tasked with the responsibility of overseeing these lands. So for the ministry to tell us the lack of capacity of the state to protect these lands that are put in trust, but to resort to, the services of people whose activities have been outlawed for the protection of these land came to us as a surprise. We have therefore demanded from the ministry the terms and conditions of that unholy relationship between the ministry and this land guard or his institution. Because clearly, we cannot pass laws that we do not intend to keep. And again, when we pass laws to sanitize any area or development in our country, we do not expect the state to be the first to break those laws.
Now, Al-Hassan Souyuni also claimed shockingly that it is not only the ministry that engages the services of land guard, but also the police and military.
The other shocking part of this revelation was that, according to the Chief Director, it is not only the ministry that contracts the services of this land guard, but also the Ghana Armed Forces and the police depend on the services of this land guard to protect lands that are under their care. And so if the Ghana Armed Forces and the police cannot protect their own lands and have to resort to the use of land guards, what is the faith of the common Ghanaian who wants to acquire land and is faced with the challenge of land guards? And what was again scandalous was the revelation by the chief director that this person that is engaged, actually has a setup that the state cannot compete with. A setup that the state cannot compete with. According to the chief director, he has his own media that ensures that whatever he does, rightly or wrongly, is not exposed for public scrutiny. He has his own members of the judiciary, and so he gets away with whatever law he may have broken in the process of retrieving and protecting land. He has his own security that he deploys on these lands when he retrieves them. And at the end of the day, he comes to sit down with the ministry and he informs the ministry of the cost that he has incurred. And the ministry compensates him by dashing out, some parcels of land from the whole that he has helped to retrieve.
Well, the Lands Ministry says, contrary to these claims, it rather engaged the services of a private company to protect state land and not land guards. The statement reads that the ministry would like to set the record straight that government, and for that matter, the Ministry of Land and Natural Resources, do not contract the services of land guards in its operations. However, the ministry, through its agency, the Lands Commission, legally engaged the services of Enoch Holding Limited, a registered limited liability company, to assist in reclaiming encroached government land. The engagement has been in effect since 2012. Now, the statement continues to say that we wish to state categorically that government, and by extension the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, employs a legal process to reclaim all encroached state lands. So that's the statement from the Lands Ministry. The Ghana Armed Forces has also, in the last hour, issued a statement condemning the minorities' accusations. Now, the statement also reads that the Ghana Armed Forces, GAF, has monitored with dismay a news story alleging that it uses the services of land guards to reclaim its encroached lands. GAF wishes to assure all well-meaning Ghanaians that the allegation is false and should be treated with contempt it deserves. Now, it is unimaginable that GAF cannot protect its own land, but rather indulge in an illegality by relying on the services of land guards, a prescribed activity. It says that GAF deems it as regrettable that news reports emanated from unsubstantiated allegations made by the Chief Director of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, Professor Patrick Agbe-Sinyale, at a parliamentary committee meeting on 10 July 2023. We wish to stress that this allegation, which was repeated by Honorable Alhassan Suhuyini, Member of Parliament for Tamale North, to the media, is false and should be ignored. Accordingly, GAF wishes to once again urge the media and the public not to hesitate to contact the Department of Public Relations to clarify stories of this nature before publishing them. Now, at this critical time, GAF's focus is geared towards protecting the frontiers of our country against the downward spread of violent extremism from the Sahel region, and the least the institution expects issues that distracts us, GAF, from focusing on protecting the country. He says that Ghana Armed Forces would once again assure the general public of its continuous commitment to ensuring peace and security for the socio-economic development of Ghana. So that is the response from the Ghana Armed Forces there. Moving on to other stories now. The National Food Suppliers have served notice of occupying the premises of Buffer Store Company on Thursday with their families and debtors if their monies are not paid. The group suspended an earlier action after the Education Ministry disclosed to leadership of the food suppliers that it has made a total of 400 million cedis to the buffer stock company as of January 2023, meant to clear their arrears. The Agric Minister Brian Achiampong assured them of payment of all their validated claims today. Take a listen.
The promise that was given to buffer stock that by the 17th they will receive the set of payments that, the request that they have made to our financial authorities. That request has been met, and from the 17th they will pay them. If they have waited just about another 30 days, they will see that they would have received their money without an invitation to pick it.
So this is what Brian Achiampong told Joy News when the group first picketed the buffer stock company. But the group showed up at the buffer stock company today to collect their monies. But the chief executive officer for buffer stock company, Alhaji Hanan Abdul Wahab, told them he does not deal with an association, but rather with individuals.
The buffer stock has not been friendly because he has told us that he doesn't want to deal with an organization. And this is unfortunate because this organization is refusing to deal with. It's just the same individual that he's interested to deal with, which are put together. So whether he deals with us as an individual or as an association, it is the money that we want paid. In any case, we are not asking that the buffer stock writes a check in the name of our association. We are asking that buffer stock pays the individual suppliers who are members of our association. So we do not require validation from the Greek minister. We do not require acceptance from him. We have accepted ourselves. We have come together as an association to project and fight for our interests. So whether he accepts or not, we don't really have a qualm about that.
So that was the spokesperson for the Food Suppliers Association, Koku Ahmed Dume there. Now, he was warning that they will picket the premises of the buffer stock company till the arrears are cleared. But let's now listen to Abdul Hanan Wahab, who is the CEO for the buffer stock company.
If after Thursday we don't receive our money, I want to bring to notice here that we will resume our picketing. And when we get there, we will not listen to any advice from any honorable member. So come back with our families, we come back with our dependents, we come back with our creditors. It is going to be more massive than what we saw earlier. The whole of Thursday, we're bringing our bags, bringing everything to buffer stock. Failure to pay our money, we will sleep. Not failure to pay, but failure to pay in full. We will sleep till we get full settlement of our money.
Oh, apologies for the mess up there, but that's the spokesperson for the National Food Suppliers Association there. To other stories now, the National Association of Institutional Suppliers is calling on the government to settle the outstanding arrears for 14 batches of school uniforms supplied to schools under the free SHS policy since 2022. Some supplies made in the 2021 school year by members of the association comprising tailors, fashion designers, and garment producers are still in arrears, with about 60% of the 2022 school year supplies also remaining unpaid. The association indicates that the Ministry of Education has failed to fulfill its promise of paying these arrears as agreed upon 3 months ago. Amwa Tahil is the General Secretary of the association.
With the payment, it's delayed over 1 year now. Our capitals are locked over there. Banks are on us and we are selling properties. They should pay us. Well, on the contract, you are supposed to pay within 90 days. But now it's over 1 year. And that's very bad. Very bad. So they need to pay us as early as possible. Else the next move will be very serious and be very terrible. What we want is our prices are very bad. It was increased way back 2016. Okay, about 5 years it was increased. Only to increase about just a minimum of 20 cedis for 2 sets. Okay, and 10 cedis for outing for 2 sets. Look at the current price of khaki and other materials. It's practically impossible. We can't supply at that price. So you should look at it and give us an increment of at least uniform 120 for one set. That's 2 for 240. And outing 110 set. That's 220 for 2 sets. That's what we want concerning prices.
Now, joining us for a conversation on this is the General Secretary of the National Association of the Institutional Suppliers, Amwa Tahil. Amwa, grateful that you could join us here. We understand that the supplies are done in batches and the government pays according to the batches received. However, based on your checks, can you estimate that the amount owed by government?
The amount cannot be given, okay, but we know for sure that we now have 90 batches that are outstanding, and they spent up to only like 5 the feedback. The remaining 14 batches that have been paid. Okay, in our batches, that's what we know. And that's why it's almost like a year now that they should pay. Over a year now. And that's what we never before for us to do.
Okay. All right. Grateful to you. I wanted to find out from you if you know how much government owes your association.
We cannot give the figure, okay, but it's less than 30% paid, over 80% not paid for 2022 to the academic year, things we supplied.
All right. I'm grateful to you for joining us here. Now, to other stories now. If it is taking you years to secure an ECG meter for your house or shop, brace yourself because the power distributor says the lack of cash is making it difficult for it to acquire and make them available to you. That is according to the managing director of the company, Samuel Dubik Mahama, when he appeared before the Public Accounts Committee sitting today. The issue of accessing the meters remains a problem for many, with those with readily available money unable to get them from the ECG. We'll hear from him shortly, but first, a seamstress, Josephine Bwedi, whose meter was part of some 3 meters stolen from an electric pole in Odoko official town over a month ago, says the ECG is yet to replace the meter.
That they told us to come and pay 500 cedis each. After that, they will bill us and tell us what we should pay every month. After that, they will come and install the light for us. I wasn't understand about that 500 because I thought it should be a down payment for the light that we are using with that meter, but it wasn't like that. They said we should pay. And I asked, is it payment for the meter? They said no, we are not paying for the meter, but we have to pay that 500 to their coffers. That's the ECG account. So we have to go make that payment. They do the estimate and give you bill before they connect it to you.
So did they do the connection for you? Did they fix the meter? It's been 1 month. Did they fix the meter for you?
It wasn't a meter. They fixed it straight from the pole.
So they came to do a direct connection for you?
Yeah.
Which means that you are using electricity now, but it is not read through any meter?
No. It's not going through any meter. It's direct from the pole.
You say it's the ECG who came to do it for you? Which of the offices?
Botiano. Yeah.
When did they tell you they will come and fix the meter back for you?
They told me there's meter at the office, but they are working on it. So they can't give me exact time that they will bring the meters. Yeah.
So for 1 month, you have been using the direct connection without any meter. How much do you pay?
500 cedis a month. 150 cedis a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you did a down payment of 500 cedis. And then you are now paying 150 cedis a month. Is that what you used to pay every time?
No, even in a month, I use less than 100 cedis. I told the lady who was the estimate room, but he said if I can't pay the 150, they should leave me. Yeah. Yeah, if I can't pay. They don't know what to do again.
Now, the issue of difficulty in accessing ECG meters came up during the Public Accounts Committee sitting today when the ECG Managing Director Samuel Dubik Mahama appeared before the committee. Ningo Prampram MP Sam George first raised the issue about how one of his constituents has been waiting for 2 years to be given a meter. He got a response from the ECG MD. What transpired?
You think that it is not your business to manage vehicles. Why is it your business to be selling meters? Your business is to sell power. So why are you selling meters and not creating enough meters? There are no meters in the system. There are people, it's a public interest question. There are people in my constituency. Yesterday I had a town hall meeting, and someone brought me receipts for 2 years that he has paid to the Pram ECG office for 12 meters for his shopping complex, and he hasn't received it. If such a person decides to engage in illegal connection, does that not create a problem? In the telecom space, I don't need to go to MTN or Vodafone to buy a phone. I buy my phone, they give me connection. They are smart meter operators. In fact, the biggest smart meter manufacturer in West Africa is in my constituency, really? Alpha T&D. So why don't you allow them sell their meters? Any Ghanaian who wants a meter should go and buy a meter from an electrical shop. Then ECG comes in. Chief, we are talking serious matters for our constituents. You sell these meters, and then let ECG engineers come in, check the standard. If it meets your requirement, you connect them. But why are you holding on to meters and people can't get meters for 2 years? And you complain that you're not making your revenue.
What is preventing you from buying more meters? Money.
We lack.
So why don't you allow the private people to buy it?
So that will be PURC. Honorable Chair, PURC would now have to make a clear pronouncement on the way forward, because our hands are tied.
Okay.
Our hands are tied as to we saying a private person should purchase it. But it's clear that the private person is willing to pay for the market price. So why are we still holding on to a subsidized, So these are all conversations that we are ready to listen to. So we've also started the flat rate program. So what we intend doing within this 11 to 11 period is to actually visit every home. Those who've actually applied and we haven't given them meters, we are sorry, but we will put you on a flat rate until such a time that the meter is ready, then we come and replace it for you, because nobody can consume power at zero. In light of this, thanks to the PURC tariff.
Members of the committee, Sam George and Kwame Agboja, say they will recommend that the PRC considers licensing private individuals to sell the meters.
Honorable Chair.
So, Chairman, I think that one of the requests I will make to you on the back of this is for our report that goes to the plenary, for us to consider making a recommendation to PURC to look at the possibility of allowing private individuals that are licensed or certified either by PURC or ECG to a certain standard to put meters on the market, because this is becoming a major crisis that's affecting even the viability of ECG.
I totally agree. I think I agree with him that it is not his fault. But I think the average person in my constituency would prefer to buy the meter twice the price and know that he can get that meter within a day than the 1, 2, 3 years that he's been waiting and can't get a meter. So we need to take it up, and then we see what we can do about it. It is just not fair when you don't have money to buy meters and people have their money and you can't even get the meters to buy. As for the technology, the ability to, program the meters, you can just tell them how to manufacture. To me, there are many products in this country that are manufactured to a certain standard, and then we leave it. I think that will be a best way forward.
All right.
Now, let's return to our earlier story in which government secures the services of a land guard to reclaim and protect government land. We've been joined online by security analyst Dr. Adam Bona. Grateful for joining us here, Doc. How do you react to these allegations?
Well, good evening. Amazing, very, very amazing. How a whole chief director of a government ministry, the ministry that is supposed to help us with our land administration, will make such a statement. And in fact, making such a statement means that it is true that the ministry or his agency or government, by and large, government has actually procured, because his ministry is under, it's a government ministry or is a government agency, have procured the services of a land guard. A land guard who, according to him, is a registered what? To protect people's lands.
Yeah.
Is that a security company? Is it a registered security company? And so they go around claiming government lands. Under what authority? When we have the Vigilantism and other offenses act, landguardism, this act that was passed recently to disband vigilantism and landguardism in this country. He comes out to to tell us that they've been doing this. This is I seriously can't find words to tell your viewers and yourself how I feel, because this is just an admission of a serious crime against Ghanaians in public, and I think this was done in Parliament or so. This is just an admission of serious corruption. What did he say? He said some 50 or so state lands have been given to somebody. Which law allows a state agency? To the extent that he indicts the two largest and very important security agencies in this country, the military that is supposed to be for external aggression, protecting all of us from activities of people who might want to come and torment us in this country. And then the police that is in charge of internal security. He tells us that even the police and the military have engaged them. My checks with the police and the military indicate that it is a big fat lie. But you see, we cannot just accept that it is a big fat lie. I think that gentleman should be arrested by the police and investigated. He has mentioned a certain Jato. Let's know who Jato is.
So Doc, are you saying that the director of the ministry should be arrested, or which gentleman are you referring to?
Yes. Because he just confirmed. He just confirmed to committing some crimes. You heard him. I have the audio, and I have read from your Joy News. My Joy Online. Your site, myjoyonline.com. Yes, I've read there, and I've listened to the audio. And when he said it, he seemed to make fun of it. He laughed it. As if he laughed. As if this is some joke. You are indicting the military and indicting the police, and you are laughing about it. You are telling us that you have subletted our state lands to a private individual, and you claim that private individual is a limited liability company. So what? So you know what, Mr. Asante, let me be very honest with you. This is beyond serious.
Okay.
To tell us that after the passage of this law, a government ministry, the Lands and Natural Resource Ministry Chief Director, will come out, I think in Parliament, to actually tell Ghanaians in Parliament that he and probably his cohorts have committed a crime in this manner. He shouldn't be walking free. If I decide to sell government lands, because virtually what he told you, or he told the media and told Parliament, was that the guy reclaims the land and they give part of the land to the guy. Tell me, which law have we promulgated? Which law have we enacted that says in this country you can actually do what he's saying, he's purporting to have done, and indicting the military, even though when I checked from the military hierarchy and the police hierarchy, they said it's a big fat lie. I would say that just saying it's a big fat lie is not enough. They should arrest him and arrest all his cohort. Arrest the Gato who is involved. Let's know, where are these lands? This country cannot be run this way.
Okay. So Professor Agbesinyale, Director of the Ministry of Lands, and the Jato person all of them should be arrested. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, that is what I'm saying. Because you know what? You can't, government lands, or these lands are vested in, it's for all of us. And the government is taking care of these lands for us. And you should know the activities of land guards. But what he's saying is that his ministry have sanctioned the activities of land guards in Ghana, led by one Jato. And what they do is that they go around reclaiming government lands. Can you imagine the government who we elected and put in place to protect all of us, protect us, our safety, properties, everything? This someone is telling us that on whose authority, telling us that we've given part of our lands because the police we have in Ghana can't perform the function of protecting us. They can't perform the functions of making sure our lands are protected. The military can't perform. And you know that the boundary commission, we have a commission.
Okay.
The state has established a boundary commission. Are you aware of the person who is in charge of that? It is a senior military officer.
But Dog, I mean, in other jurisdictions, this practice is there, it is done. Again, lawyer Kwame Jan, who is a lawyer with a lot of experience in land matters, has been quoting a certain provision of the law. I've forgotten, but he says it is allowable that the government can use other privately or private assigns to protect state lands. I've forgotten the law, but he just gave that education on our radio.
Well, I'm not aware, and I'll not pretend I've seen the law, but what I'm trying to say is that you heard him. You heard the chief director of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. He said, and he was clear in the audio I've intercepted, which I believe you also have seen, that the military and the police have actually subletted their lands to this guy to reclaim for them. Let me know. Tell me, if there is any law at all, I'm sure you do also know that for persons to be engaged by government, there is a process you go through. There's a process you go through by procuring the person's services, assuming there is even a law. If there is a law, under what who sat down? I mean, who sat down with this private person? Tell me. I mean, I will look for this law if it exists. Who sat down with this private person and said, if you claim 1,000 of government lands, we'll give you 10% of that? I mean, who did it? Is it an act of parliament? I mean, I want to know which instrument. Who sat down with this guy? This is how small and big corruption has always manifested in this country. And I'm telling you that for this chief director to indict our military, when we know that the Boundary Commission of Ghana, is headed by a senior military officer, my own good friend, Kotia, you are telling me that then let's have the Boundary Commission should be given to this private Jato guy so that when we are disputing Burkina Faso, we are disputing, Côte d'Ivoire and the rest, this person goes in and then to make sure that they don't cheat us. Because then it doesn't make sense, Mr. Asante. It does not make sense. So for me, I would call for a swift arrest of this chief director and his cohort. Let's investigate this, because then it looks like we are sleeping. But unfortunately, our feet is out there, and mosquitoes are feasting on our feet. I just can't believe what this chief director said, and I believe it is true. He's done it, so they should arrest him and his cohorts.
Grateful to you, Dr. Adam Bona, for joining us here. This is still Joy News Prime. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with more. Welcome back from the break. Now, a resident of Ayopia in the Bongo district in the Upper East region, where President Akufo-Addo first cut sword for the One Village, One Dam project, say the dam dries up shortly after Christmas. They still value the project and are requesting the government to bring contractors back to decide to do a better job. If dams built to aid dry season farming are incapable of retaining enough water and dry up by January each year. Jojo Kobna brings you excerpt of Joy News' hotline documentary titled Thirsty Dams.
Water to the northerner is like blood. When we have water, we can do a lot of things for ourselves.
And without it, unemployment poverty and famine. To escape, many young people traveled down south for supposed greener pastures. The NPP government provided a solution: one village, one dam.
The then candidates and then the running mates visited a chief in one of these villages and met the women digging the ground with their bare hands for water. So when they saw that, they said, well, when we come to power, we will provide you with water that can be better than what you are using your bare hands to construct. And that is how come the promise of one village, one dam.
I'm saying every village, one dam. One village, one dam. You know?
The policy appealed to the people in the northern regions.
The government came here and told us that they will be giving us dam. And our people assured them that if they give them dam, they also let them laugh. And really, you can ask our assemblyman and even ask the NPP people what this community did for them. They voted massively for them.
It was a political promise that won the hearts and minds of the people. The dams should make it possible for farmers to farm all year round and break the cycle of waiting for the rains before cultivation. It was the reason why the people of Bongo sang and danced till they became drenched in sweat. When the president cut salt for the implementation of the project.
We have begun the One Village, One Dam initiative, and you here in Bongo can see for yourself that we have begun the initiative. It is our intention that Bongo alone will get 10 dams this year. 570 are being built. You heard the minister across the 3 northern regions, and Bongo constituency alone is going to get 10 out of that 570.
This campaign promise has been fulfilled. Well, but not quite.
Dam always takes us 2 months to dry up.
Only 2 months?
Only 2 months. October, November. The water dry up. November, like this, you see our pepper farm. You will like it. But where? No water again.
My name is Jojo Kobina. It has been 5 years since the dams were constructed. My job here is simple. Find out how the dams are serving the people as it should and what concerns the people have. I hope governments will use the findings in this documentary to improve the current state of the dams.
Now, authorities in the Volta region have proposed the reconstruction of culverts along some storm drains in Ho to prevent perennial flooding. They believe expanding the culvert would enable accommodating large volumes of water and prevent it from overflowing on the street and shops. There is more in the following report by Fred Kwame Asare.
Saturday, 8th July 2023 would go down in the history books of the Volta regional capital, Ho. The Ghana Meteorological Service said it recorded 189.2 millimeters of rain on that fateful day, the highest rainfall in about 2 decades. The rainfall caused a flash flood that swept through Ho, destroying shops and homes along drains and on waterways.
We received a distress call that there is a flooding at Ho Bankwe. So we came here quickly. On our arrival, we saw that it was a disaster. The gutter full up and then spread and broke into one of the a clothing store, Awuni store.
The National Disaster Management Organization indicated that some 1,051 residents were affected by the flood, with the central business district suffering the greatest effects. The flood broke through the back of a textile shop in Hobankwe and washed away goods worth billions of Ghana cedis.
Matter cost you. There is billions of cedis. Billions of cedis. Because Agba, Ghana cedi. Me gavio, Agba no koma me. A wholesale cry, I don't get rid of my uniform. And no pay as home, especially printers. Uniform, and nurse.
Some residents blame the perennial flooding on the size of storm drains and construction works along the Kabakaba mountain. Joining checks revealed that some residents have erected buildings and fence walls on waterways, hence obstructing the natural flow of water.
When you see the volume of water flowing from the mountain top down there, down to this place where we are now, it's very great. And obstacles here and there, people blocking the path of the water flow because of their constructions.
First of all, there is the need to desilt the existing drains that we have. So when that is done, then we can expect that more money will be found later on to do expansion and reconstruction of the drain.
The Volta Regional Minister, Dr. Archibald Lecha, acknowledged that lands along the mountain are becoming a preferred choice for residents and hospitality industry players. He called for a halt of construction works along the mountain as an immediate measure to curb flooding in Ho.
Without sounding selfish, I think that we should put a stop to further development on this ridge, because it's also increasing the volume of water that comes into the city, and we have to regulate it so that the water can at least soak into the ground. But if we have these concrete floors all over the place, we have buildings everywhere. When the water comes from up there, it must come to, water finds its own way. So it will by all means move from the higher levels to the lower levels. So if we have to, the assembly will have to come up with a scheme to control the further development of the ridge. It's very important. The assembly can start demolishing structures that are obviously on the waterway, that have no permits. They can start the demolition.
The Volta Regional Engineer of the Ghana Hydrological Authority, Kennedy Klugerson, indicated that culverts of the main drainage systems must be reconstructed. His outfit strongly believes it would end the perennial flooding in Ho.
There was a MOU between the government of Ghana and some companies to construct some of the drains in the whole capital city. But they couldn't turn up. And looking at it right from the Flower Road, that's the Donokoji area, Leprosarium. As you can see, when we went there, you realize that we need to remove those culverts. Barras one also, we need to remove that one. Almost most of the old existing culverts, we need to remove all of them, replace them with bigger size culverts.
The residents are hoping the authorities would act on what they preach to save Ho from the annual flooding. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News. Ho.
Now, he's loved by many for his role in Ghana's independence struggle, setting the country on an industrialization path and championing the Pan-African agenda. There are, however, those who see him as a dictator and question what Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's legacy is. The debate is not exclusive to academics and other members of society. Two of his children, Samia and Sekou Nkrumah, also disagree on what their father exactly stood for and what his legacy must be.
Nkrumah introduced the one-party state. Nkrumah became life president. These are facts. It's not what you read. And I'm saying that is dictatorial, but I'm saying it's because of his ideas of that socialist path for our development, not only for Ghana, but Africa.
So he chose it because for him it was a path to development.
Yes, he was a Marxist intellectual, and he chose the socialist path. We can't redefine Nkrumah as that's what I'm saying, but so it was dictatorial. But it doesn't mean that it's wrong, because that was his philosophy, and people have their philosophy. As today we have a multi-party system, that's the Western, inherited from the Western system. Nkrumah was against that. He didn't believe. He developed a point where he realized socialism is the path. So what I'm saying, for us to understand his greatness...
That's why everything was pushed through Parliament
not
today.
Western democracy.
No,
That's
but
a different
even
kind of democracy.
every legislation, everything he promoted was done through Parliament. Right. This is a man who won with his party,
so you
3
disagree
elections.
with the word dictatorial?
Strongly, because it's the manner in which he introduced most of his policies. Oh, everything actually was pushed through Parliament. So he used constitutional means, and we can check the records. You know, so are we saying that today, when any government of the day pushes through things which the opposition vehemently opposes, that they are...
no opposition then.
But
so
there was an opposition. There were different parties.
They had no room to operate.
There was a referendum. There were... Everything was pushed
I don't agree with you, but I guess people differ, even siblings, yeah. So.
The full conversation will air on the AM show tomorrow, so kindly make a date. Now, the national security is intensifying surveillance at the country's border with neighboring Burkina Faso following the arrest of some alleged refugees dressed as nursing mothers, but a thorough search found weapons and ammunition on them. It is unclear their real intentions in Ghana, but Deputy Defense Minister Kwame says the development has pushed the security agencies to tighten the search on asylum seekers. Speaking on the probe on Joy News, Mr. Amenu said government would not sacrifice the safety of Ghanaians for the right of the asylum seekers in its quest to safeguard the borders of the country.
We are not targeting anybody.
We are not targeting people seeming to be Fulani headsmen.
Surprisingly,
children, amongst others.
I mean, we have Fulanis who are Ghanaians. We've lived with Fulanis in Ghana, only God knows how long. Mm-hmm. And so, for me, it would be absurd if we now go out there to target them. It doesn't make sense. Okay. But as I said, we have a complex issue on our hand. And so we need to screen whoever is coming in. If you are coming in and then you genuinely deserve assistance, we, based on the 1951 Refugee Convention, we will do what is expected of us. But when you don't, then we also, because all the operations the national security military is doing in collaboration with the various RESEC is based on intelligence. Okay. And so as and when we pick intelligence, we deal with the issues. I think that, I mean, I need to say, there have been instances where I have seen pictures of women carrying babies, less than a year. And as part of their luggages, you'll be surprised, ammunitions, carrying ammunitions. And then you have guns and other things, you know, hidden in certain part of cattle and all that. By, you know, man, husband, yes. Okay. So we really need to be on the lookout because, as I said, we have the Ghanaian people to protect. Okay. We have a country to protect. We have properties to protect. We cannot say that because we want to be compassionate, we will not look at the security of our nation.
Now, ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament, James Agalga, says government has every right to screen the refugees, but must also be mindful of international treaties that protect the right of the asylum seekers.
Government is very much aware of its commitments under my brother spoke about the 1961 Refugee Convention and its related protocols. Government clearly has a commitment not to, as it were, repatriate refugees who are, properly speaking, refugees to countries where they may face very serious threats to their life and fundamental freedom. So that is a principle that I am sure they are very, very much aware of. We call that the principle of non-refoulement. It's the cornerstone of the 1951 Refugee Convention. But, MFA, having said that, it does not mean that the government cannot screen refugees who enter our country.
And that's all we have in our package for you tonight. There's more on myjoyonline.com. My name is Samuel Kojo Brace. Thank you for watching. Prime Business is Happiness with Pius Kojo Baka. Good evening.
Hello, great evening to you. Warm welcome to Prime Business with me, Pius Kojo Baka. To our very first story, government has finally kick-started the process to restructure local dollar bonds and cocoa bills totaling almost 18.2 billion cedis. This was after it officially launched what is being described as the second round of the domestic debt exchange program. George Yafe has the rest of the story.
For the local dollar bonds, which is directly being led by the Finance Ministry in terms of the offer, government is seeking to restructure $809 million worth of bonds. Investors that are holding these papers have from last Friday to July 28, 2023 to take a decision whether they want to participate in the offer. However, the Ministry of Finance have already secured the necessary commitment from commercial banks and some institutional investors that hold majority of these papers. But one is still not sure whether the offer could be successful come next Friday. The Ministry of Finance is hoping that the new dollar bonds will mature on 2 separate years, 50% of the payment to be done in 2027 and the rest in 2028. The cocoa bill, which government is seeking to restructure almost 8 billion Ghana cedis, is led by Cowbank in terms of handling the whole process. The offer will close by July 31. Holders of these papers that decide to participate in the offer will have each bond exchanged for 5 new papers with an aggregate principal amount rounded up to 1 Ghana cedi. The Ministry of Finance argues that it needs to carry out this second round of domestic debt restructuring to help reduce the country's debt and unlock additional funding from the International Monetary Fund.
Meanwhile, economist Professor Lord Mensah is urging investors to consider government's offer of restructuring local dollar bonds and cocoa bills, insisting it will help in reprofiling Ghana's debt while it unlocks additional funding from the IMF. According to him, investors are better off to sign up for the deal. Speaking to Joy Business, Professor Mensah urged government to be proactive with information on the restructuring of the local dollar bonds to win the trust of investors.
From the investor's perspective, you know, if you are going to lose your money completely, I mean, let's assume you don't accept this and government, but then the only problem with government is that in as much as the investors are going to sacrifice, they may want to see the government behaving like a government that owns, you know, not necessarily a government that, you know, squeeze the people and in the end, the government will be, you know, flushing, you know, things out and then wasting money here and there. But from where I sit, right, and from the principles of finance, if you are going to lose your money completely through, I mean, banks, if the country should declare bankrupt, then you are better off that the country will restructure, you know, and then possibly prolong your debt. So from where I sit, I think it's an offer that we may have to consider as investors and then possibly sacrifice in a short term, short to medium term for long term, you know, prospects for the country. So I think it has to do with communication as well. And if the communications are not clear, that is when the investor community, I mean, seem to lose trust in the government. And when they lose trust, whatever you put on the table, they will take it with a pinch of salt.
All right.
But if you, I mean, turn up to come out clear with information, I mean, if it comes about that you have to pay, you know, I mean, certain principal and certain coupons and you need to pay it exactly on time, I think you build that trust with them, and whatever you put on the table has to do with negotiation.
All right. Let's do something on energy, because the executive director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy, Benjamin Boakye, is optimistic the increased crude oil production by Tullow Oil PLC will impact the economy positively. Crude oil production from the Jubilee oil field has finally surpassed 100,000 barrels per day. According to Tullow, this was after its Jubilee Southeast project came on stream. However, Mr. Boakye indicated that the need for government to implement policies and attract investments to sustain the production is key.
It's good news for Ghana because it brings us back to perhaps 2019 production level. Ghana has declined in oil production. We lost about 20 million barrels a year since 2019. And therefore, having additional flows from Jubilee then brings us back to around 175,000 barrels of oil a day, which should be good. I mean, particularly in this hard economic time where government revenues are constrained and we're looking for additional sources of revenue. That could be a game changer for the economic situation that we're in. So, to that extent, it's good news. But again, these are early days. We will have to also look at what has gone into bringing up, extra 30,000 barrels of oil. We're told about $4 billion have already been spent. We need to carefully look at what that means for cash flow for Ghana. If they have to offset that kind of investment, then how much are we looking for on a year-on-year basis? Those are dynamics that we'll have to look into in the coming days. It's been on hold for some time. I mean, they should have completed that phase, I think, 2016, 17, thereabouts. So it's actually delayed in commercializing the entire field and doing that development. So it's been on the drawing board. I mean, there are other fields that could have come at this point to make us much richer and better, which we have failed to actually deliver on. And a typical one will be the deepwater tunnel, which just got approval for development. And other fields like Block 4, which should have been fast-tracked to also bring on additional oil production. Those didn't see any policy actions that could quickly bring that on stream. So, yes, this is good news, but there are other actions, policy actions that are required to ramp up oil production, perhaps to create that cushion that we need at this critical moment.
Now, a former board member of credit ratings agency Moody's, Professor Darrell Duffy, has cast doubts about the African Union establishing a rating agency. In March 2019, the AU Ministers of Finance and Economy professionally or officially adopted a declaration that such an institution was needed. In recent times, President Akufo-Addo has also attacked the rating agencies over their continuous downgrade of Ghana and other African economies. Now, the African continent is said to be losing $75 billion each year due to credit rating bias. However, reacting to the claims, the renowned Professor of Finance, Darrell Duffy, who serves as a senior fellow at the Hoover Institute, said he disagrees there is systemic bias by rating agencies. He has been speaking to Joy News' Blessed Suga at a roundtable discussion at Stanford University in San Francisco.
That's true, but that's somewhat different than the problem of which currency should we use for payments. Now, as long as you have sufficient dollars with which to make the payments, it's the easiest and usually the most stable currency in which to make international payments.
And very finally, ratings agencies are being criticized by the United Nations Development Program of skewing their reports against African or emerging economies. Do you share that concern as well?
I don't share that concern, although I must say that I was on the board of directors of Moody's Corporation for 10 years.
That was cited in the report.
Yeah, so that might suggest that I have a bias, but in fact it also informs me that they don't do that sort of thing.
But how do you explain that to those who share their side of the story? That, well, it's mostly the narrative is cyclical about African economy.
One of the things that I learned about rating agencies is that no one ever complains if you increase their rating to a higher level. But everyone complains if you lower their rating, and everyone suggests that that was unjustified. And there are many reasons given for why it's unjustified. In the end, the ratings agencies tend to get it right on average, and of course they make mistakes. But I don't see any systematic bias, and I don't see anything like a plan to undercut the advantages of certain countries by giving them a lower rating.
To publish a clear roadmap or benchmarks that you use for your ratings, would that be far-fetched? Something that you could publicly put out?
No, in fact, their rating agencies do that. They provide research that goes with their ratings, pretty extensive research reports that explain the economic basis for the ratings.
Blessed Surga in that interaction with Darrell Duffy there. And that's it for the bulletin. But just so you know, tomorrow there's a big program coming up, economic transformation. That's our topic for tomorrow. What should the policy direction be in the 2023 mid-year budget? And of course, we've got great lineup for you. Just want to stay with us here on Joy News, and of course on radio as well. We shall be coming your way with the very latest on that. It starts at 1 p.m. and closes at 3 p.m. That's it for the bulletin. I am Pius Kojubaka. Do enjoy the rest of our programs. Prime Sports is next.
Another welcome to Prime Sports. With me, Razak Musbah, the start of the Black Queens of Ghana, and they are set to take on Guinea in the second leg of the first round of qualifiers for the 2024 Olympic Games at the Accra Sports Stadium tomorrow, July 18th. This comes after a 3-0 victory in the first meeting. Now, the team held its final training session earlier today at the Accra Sports Stadium, where coach of the side, Nora Hoptel, cautioned against complacency in the game on Tuesday. Joy Sports' Lawrence Beatty was there, and he came through with this report.
Zero advantage from the first leg after the victory in Conakry last Friday. The team held its final training ahead of the game on Monday evening, with all 23 players completing the session. The return fixture against Guinea will be the 5th game for Nora Hoptel since she was appointed as the head coach of the side. During the 4 games played, the Black Queens have scored 10 goals and conceded 0 in that period, winning all as well. Speaking before the team's training, the Swiss coach said Ghana has a tradition of controlling games and she's trying to implement that.
Of course, it's in our DNA in Ghana to be very creative, to have ball possession, to play offense, to take the initiative in the offense. But also there you need to know which spaces you can find against his opponent. We try to create a high rate of chances. Our XG factor, so what we put then in the goal out of these chances can still be developed much more. In Guinea we could have scored 6-7 goals. So also there we want to still develop and are very hungry, to score more goals. Behind we have a clear tactical frame also for the defense. It's also then a lot of discipline it calls to make the runs. And then we come back to our values, are we selfless and run in the defense for each other and fight for each other? And I think we did it pretty well against Guinea. But tomorrow it's a new game and we need to stick back to those values.
Portia Boache, who is the captain of the side, also added that the team will not be complacent against Guinea despite boasting a 3-goal advantage and will play again for the win on Tuesday.
I know we have a mission ahead of us, and I trust my girls very much that we are going to qualify. And as a captain, I always talk to my girls because adiebi eba emma easy upe bibi ana bibi siwani suwa I was say on konkodin and sana on say to me I dey aka the chrono. So anytime biano me no mo kasa, sometimes me kasa chiro one-on-one, and they are ready to work for me and my coaches. So we are really prepared for this qualification.
Prior to Ghana's training session, Guinea were at the stadium earlier, and speaking to the press, the head coach of the team said they will play to honor their country against the Ghanaians. The Black Queens will face the winner of the game between Guinea-Bissau and Benin should they go past Guinea.
Now, former Black Stars forward David Akam has entreated the Black Stars to be ready to give their best to ensure Ghana qualifies for the 2026 World Cup. His comment comes following the World Cup qualifying draw, where Ghana was pitched alongside Mali, Madagascar in Group I. According to him, the benefits of playing in the World Cup are enormous, and for the country and the individual players. Hence, securing a slot is a must for Ghana. He's been speaking to my colleague Nathan Alato.
We all know the benefits of qualifying to World Cup, and the next World Cup is in USA, and that's huge. And I know I'm here in the USA, and I know what the USA are preparing. They are preparing for a great World Cup. And for me, I think it will be even better or bigger than what we saw in Qatar. So this is the world showpiece, and every country wants to be there. So if we want to be the best, want to be considered as the best country in football, then we have to be here. We have to do everything to be here. And for me, as I said, it's always possible to qualify if we do the right things. And of course, there's a lot of work to do, but we have to be here in the World Cup. I remember Ghana played USA in the Connecticut in 2017, and it was huge. There's a lot of Ghanaians in USA and Canada, and they turned the game into like a carnival. They were having fun, and it shows the support that we have here in USA. So if we qualify to the World Cup, then I think in our game it will be massive because we are known for supporting our team, especially everywhere we go. So we have to do everything to qualify to the World Cup.
Tell me about the kinds of lessons you picked up from our participation or the failure at the World Cup in Qatar.
I think we just didn't prepare enough. We were not ready. I can say we were not ready because we were not even sure when we had Nigeria. Everyone thought like we were going to lose, so we weren't even ready to play that game. But we managed to qualify, and when we qualified, there was not enough time for us to prepare. The most lesson I learned was we just have to prepare, because if you don't prepare, you don't win. And at the moment we have time. We have enough time to prepare. And I just saw they just announced their football DNA, and it's just from the beginning. We just have to sow. If you don't sow, how can you reap? So we have time now. We just have to start preparing, start sowing the seeds that will help us to achieve in the future.
Well, Maketa van der Suva also emerged champion in the women's singles final there over Onjabeur. That's all we have for you in Prime Sports tonight. With me, Razak Musbao. Please have a lovely evening.